All right, here we go with Gregor the Overlander, chapter 5. And the last thing that we read was, "We're staying," said Gregor. "We're staying until this thing is over." Chapter 5. "Go, Chico," Boots told Temp, tapping her heels on the roach's shell, and he obediently carried her over to Gregor. She slid off and ran over and hugged his leg. "Hey, Boots," he said, ruffling her curls. "Where have you been?" "I go ride fast, fast ride," she said. "Do you remember Vicus?" Gregor asked, gesturing to him. "Hi, hi you," Boots said happily. "Welcome, Boots," said Vicus. "We have missed you." "Hi, Bat," Boots said, waving to Ares, although Gregor had been ignoring him. "Hey, Temp," Gregor said to the cockroach. "Next time, do you think you could tell me before you run off with Boots? You freaked me out." "Hates us? The Overlander hates us?" asked Temp. Oh, great. Now he'd hurt the roach's feelings. They were so thin-skinned. Well, thin-shelled. "No, I don't hate you. Come on. It just scared me when you took Boots. I didn't know where she was," said Gregor. "With us, she was. With us," said Temp, confused now. "Yeah, I know that now, but I didn't know in the park," said Gregor. "I was worried." "Hates us. Overlander hates us," repeated Temp. "No, I just need you to tell me if you're going to take her somewhere," said Gregor. Temp's antennas drooped noticeably. This was going nowhere fast. He shifted gears. "But Temp, thanks a lot for getting Boots away from the rats. You did a great job." Temp perked up. "Rat bad," he said with conviction. "Yeah," Gregor said. "Rat very bad." At that moment, Luxa appeared in the doorway. Her silvery blonde hair had grown out a little. She was a bit taller, but it was the lilac circles under those violet eyes that caught Gregor's attention. He wasn't the only one who'd been having a rough time lately. "Welcome, Gregor the Overlander," said Luxa, approaching him but not touching him. "Hey, Luxa, how you doing?" asked Gregor. Her hand reached up distractedly and gave a quick nudge to the gold band around her head, almost like she wanted to shove it off. "Fine, I'm fine." She wasn't fine. Clearly, the girl hadn't been sleeping well. She did not look happy, but she still had that arrogant tilt to her head, the half smile. She still stood like a queen. "So, you've come back after all." "Didn't have much of a choice," said Gregor. "No," said Luxa stonily. "You and I never seem to have much of a choice. Are you hungry?" I hungry," said Boots. "We missed dinner," Gregor said, although his stomach was too knotted up to feel hungry. "You need to bathe and dine and then sleep, Solivet says. You must begin training on the morrow," said Luxa. "Says she so?" Vicus asked, sounding a bit surprised. "Yes, did she not tell you?" said Luxa, giving Vicus a mocking look, to which he did not respond. They had a funny relationship. Vicus was her grandfather, but since her parents had been killed by rats, he was also the closest thing she had to a father. And he was supervising and training Luxa to take on the full responsibilities of being the queen of Regalia when she reached 16. Gregor thought it must be complicated for them being so many things to each other. "I will see you on the field, Gregor," Ares, Luxa said, and left. Gregor and Boots were taken to the bathrooms by the couple of Underlanders he'd never met. The young woman took Boots into the locker room for the girls, while a guy escorted Gregor to his side. He caused a scene by running out of the bathroom, dripping wet, with just a towel around him to ask the guy not to burn their clothes. Ares was right. Turning their clothes to ashes was standard, but Gregor knew it would cost a lot to replace them, and he really didn't want to lose his boots. "But your clothes carry much scent. The Nars will know you are here," the guy said uncertainly. "Oh, that's okay. I mean, they already know I'm here. 2 of them chased me to the waterway," said Gregor. "So could you just, I don't know, maybe you could put them in the museum or something. That's all Overland stuff, right?" Relieved at the suggestion, the guy went off to ask Vicus. They were fed a big meal: beef stew, bread, mushrooms, those things that reminded Gregor of sweet potatoes but weren't, and some kind of cake. Boots ate with gusto, which reminded him she'd had little more than a bowl of oatmeal and a peanut butter sandwich that day. At least the rest of his family would have the scalloped potatoes for dinner, if anyone could eat. Oh, this whole thing was his fault. If only he'd kept an eye on Boots. The roaches never would have run off with her. But then the rats could have reached her first. He guessed he ought to feel grateful to everybody here for rescuing her, and he did, on one level. But on another, he resented them for dragging him back into their troubled world. What was it Vicus had said? As our destinies are intertwined, blah, 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 blah. He wanted no part of it, but here he was again. Boots conked out the minute her head hit the pillow, but Gregor felt restless and anxious. He couldn't sleep, thinking about his family. The threat of Boots and the looming presence of some giant white rat out there somewhere waiting for him. He finally gave up and decided to take a walk around the palace. It should be fine. He wasn't trying to escape or anything this time. The doorway he passed seemed to lead to people's living quarters. The common rooms, like the high hall or the dining room, were open. But on Gregor's floor, curtains blocked most of the rooms from view. Stone doors must not have been practical, and the only wooden door he'd ever seen in the Underland led to the room filled with Sandwich's prophecies. Gregor had been walking about 10 minutes when he heard a voice coming from one of the rooms. They were somewhat muffled by the curtains, but still audible because the people were arguing. It was Vicus. "You should have told me about the training. I should have had a say in it." And who was he talking to? Yes, we could have gone round and round while you tried to think of some way to protect him, but it is not possible, no matter what you want. It sounded like Solivet. It was Vicus's wife, Lux's grandmother, and the head of the Regalia military. Usually she spoke in a gentle, stately voice, but Gregor had heard her barking orders in combat. Solivet's ability to swing between gracious lady and solid unnerved him because he never knew which one to expect. She sounded more like the soldier now. Gregor didn't want to eavesdrop, so he turned to slip away, but then he heard his name and couldn't help listening. "And what of what Gregor wants? Does he have no say in this? He pushed away the sword, Solivet. He does not wish to fight," said Vicus. "None of us wish to fight, Vicus," said Solivet. Vicus made a sound like, which suggested he thought maybe somebody in the room enjoyed fighting. "None of us wish to fight," Solivet repeated in a steely voice, "but we all do. And the prophecy calls Gregor the warrior, after all, not the peacemaker." "Oh, the prophecies are often misleading. He is called a warrior, but perhaps his weapons are not the ones we are familiar with. He did very well last time with no common weapon," said Vicus. "I am telling you, he pushed away Sandwich's sword." "Yes, when he was safe and he thought everything was over, but I remember he asked for a sword on the quest," shot back Solivet. "But he had no need of it. He was better off without it, I think," said Vicus. "And I think that if you send him out unarmed this time, you guarantee his death," said Solivet. Then there was silence. Gregor retreated from the doorway as quickly as possible and somehow made it back to his room. The little sleep he had that night was filled with disturbing dreams. The end of chapter 5.